For decades, military planners assumed that air superiority required massive, expensive air bases and complex infrastructure. The American model of warfare taught the world that to control the sky, you needed pristine runways and heavily defended hangars. But what if the future of air combat doesn't look like a fortress? What if it looks like a highway in the middle of a forest? And what if the weapons used to destroy an aggressor were paid for by the aggressor's own wallet? For Ukraine, this is no longer just a theory. It is becoming a reality through a historic deal that changes the rules of the game. On October 22nd, 2025, Ukraine and Sweden signed a massive agreement for the acquisition of 150 Sub-39 GripenE fighters. This is the largest purchase of combat aircraft in Ukraine's history. But the shockwave sent through the Kremlin wasn't just about the number of jets. It was about the money. Swedish defense officials confirmed that this fleet could be financed using frozen Russian assets, the billions of euros immobilized in Europe after the invasion. In a twist of supreme irony, Moscow's own wealth is now funding the very machine designed to dismantle its air force. To understand why this specific jet scares Russia so much, you have to look at how it was designed. While American jets like the F-16 were built to fight from large, secure bases, the Gripen was built for a different kind of war. During the Cold War, Sweden knew that if the Soviet Union attacked, every airbase would be destroyed in the first hour. So, Swedish engineers designed a survival system disguised as a fighter jet. They built a plane that could land on a standard 600-meter stretch of highway. They designed it to be refueled and rearmed in 10 minutes by a small team of conscripts working out of a single truck. This philosophy, once seen as old-fashioned, is now Ukraine's salvation. Russian missiles have turned many Ukrainian airfields into craters. Long runways are easy targets, but the GripenE doesn't care about runways. It thrives in the dirt and hides in tree lines. It uses the country's road network as a massive, unbreakable airbase. By the time a Russian satellite spots a heat signature on a road near Kharkov, the Gripen is already airborne. Its missiles are locked, and the pilot is hunting. This is aerial guerrilla warfare. Dispersed, unpredictable, and impossible to target. Survival is one thing, but winning is another. The GripenE is a master hunter because of its technology. It doesn't rely on expensive stealth coatings to hide. Instead, it uses sensor supremacy. The heart of the jet is a revolutionary radar mounted on a movable joint that lets it look over the shoulder of the aircraft. This allows for a terrifying tactic called the shoot and turn. A Ukrainian pilot can fire a missile at a Russian jet, turn 90 degrees away to escape danger, and still guide the missile to the target using the side-looking radar. The Russian pilot loses his lock, but the Gripen does not. The weapon it carries is just as dangerous. The Meteor missile is unlike any other air-to-air weapon. Most missiles run out of fuel quickly and coast to their target, losing speed. The Meteor has a ramjet engine that breathes air and accelerates all the way to impact. It has a no-escape zone 3 times larger than Russian missiles. This means a Gripen can fire from beyond the horizon, and even if the Russian pilot turns and runs at top speed, the Meteor will chase him down. While the Gripen attacks, it protects itself with an advanced electronic warfare suite that blinds enemy radar. To a Russian S-400 operator, the sky suddenly looks full of false targets or completely empty. The Gripen doesn't need to be invisible. It just needs to make the enemy blind. When news of the deal broke, the reaction in Moscow was a mix of denial and panic. At first, Russian state media laughed, calling the Gripen a Western toy. But the laughter stopped when reports came in from the front lines. Russian pilots began using a new code name for the Gripen: the Shadow, because the jet operates from everywhere. The Russians couldn't predict where the threat would come from. The no-fly fortress that Russia had built with its air defense systems began to crumble. Moscow tried to escalate by firing expensive cruise missiles at Ukrainian airfields, destroying hangars and fuel depots. But the next morning, videos surfaced of Gripens taking off from a country road 50 miles away. Russia was burning millions of dollars to destroy empty concrete. They even tried electronic jamming, attempting to cut the connection between the Gripens and their command centers. But the jet is built to fight alone. Its internal systems fuse data from its own sensors, creating a perfect picture of the battlefield for the pilot, even without a network. Every attempt to stop the fleet failed. Russian pilots stopped flying aggressive missions and demanded escorts. The psychological dominance of the Russian Air Force was broken, not by numbers, but by the fear of the unknown. This deal represents a turning point for the entire continent of Europe. For 80 years, European defense relied almost entirely on the United States. If there was a war, Europe waited for Washington to send the planes. The Gripen deal changes that dynamic forever. This is a European jet, provided by a European power, funded by European-held assets, fighting a European war. It is the birth of independent European power. Sweden, Poland, Finland, and Ukraine are building a defense network that doesn't need permission from the Pentagon to operate. By using Russia's frozen billions to fund this fleet, the West has weaponized finance in a new way, turning the aggressor's retirement fund into their own defense budget. As the first squadron of these 150 jets prepares to take to the sky, the message to Moscow is clear. You can bomb the bases, jam the radios, and threaten escalation, but you cannot stop a force that moves like a ghost. You cannot bankrupt a force that is paid for with your own money. The Gripen isn't just a fighter jet. It is the end of the era where Russia owned the sky. The highway fighter has arrived, and the air war will never be the same again.